Today I just want to go over earning money via wages and overtime. So when someone earns a wage, it means they earn an hourly rate. So the more hours they work, the more hours they get paid. Now, usually wage earners are given a set amount of hours in their award, and beyond that, if they work more than that number of hours, they can get paid what is called overtime. So overtime is where they get paid at a higher hourly rate. So there's two kinds of overtime. We've got time and a half, which is 1.5 times their normal hourly rate, or they have double time, which is 2 times their hourly rate. So normally, a wage worker, say for example, they might have a normal working 38-hour working week, and any hours worked beyond that accrue overtime. So you might have the first 4 hours after 38 hours, they earn overtime at a rate of 1.5 times or time and a half, and anything beyond that, so more than 42 hours, gets 2 times or double time their hourly rate. Okay, so it's an incentive for people to work more hours, essentially. All right, so I just want to go through a couple of examples of how to calculate earnings based around overtime. So one is more complex than the other, but we'll just go through the more simple one first. So I've got a question here. Calculate how much Lee earns if he works 30 hours at the normal rate of $18.30 per hour, 4 hours at time and a half, and 5 hours at double time. So there's a few different ways to calculate this, but I really suggest going through step by step, going through your information, seeing what you've got, and writing that down, each calculation, before putting it into your calculator and totaling it, because a question like this is usually going to be worth more than 1 mark. Okay, so you want to make sure you're getting that extra mark for showing how you've achieved your solution. All right, so we're told Lee works 30 hours at the normal hourly rate of $18.30. So remember, in our solution, we always outline what it is we're finding, and we are finding this time his earnings, and they are equal to 30 hours multiplied by $18.30. Now, it's up to you whether you want to put the dollar sign in there. I've done that just to illustrate where that number has come from. All right, that's our hourly rate. You're not going to get penalized for doing it. You're not going to get penalized for not doing it. Okay, so it's got 30 hours at $18.30, and then on top of that, he's got 4 hours at time and a half. So remembering that time and a half is 1.5 times our hourly rate. So they've got 4 lots of 1.5 times our hourly rate, which is $18.30. Okay, then on top of that, he's got some double time earnings. So we've got 5 hours at double time. So 5 times, now a double time rate, as it suggests, is 2 times our hourly rate. So 5 times 2 times our hourly rate. Okay, so I've clearly stepped out what it is I've done there. If you wanted to, you could state the normal earnings, the time and a half earnings, and the double time earnings, and add them all together. It is a little bit of extra writing, so if you're someone that likes to do the bare minimum, I would say this is the bare minimum. Don't do any less than this, okay? Even when you start to simplify this, all right, I just wouldn't suggest it, okay? You want to make sure that you make it really, really clear where your values are actually coming from, because if you do happen to make a silly mistake, and it happens to everyone, all right, you want your marker to see that you actually do know what you're talking about. You've just happened to have written something down incorrectly. And there's lots of opportunities to gain marks where that may have gone wrong for you. Okay, so just make everything as clear as you possibly can. All right, so when we do that calculation, we end up with earnings of $841.80. Okay, and you always want to make sure that you've got a reasonable answer. That to me is a reasonable answer. Had we come up with a value of something like $12,000 for 39 hours work, then chances are we've probably made a bit of a mistake putting that into our calculator. So always, I want you to get in the habit of checking that your solution is a reasonable answer. Okay, so that's quite a simple overtime calculation. You may be given a more problem-solving type question regarding overtime, where you are told the total earnings and then kind of have to work backwards to see the hourly rate. So I've got a question here. In a week, Harry works 17 hours at the normal rate, 6 hours at time and a half, and 3 hours at double time. What is he at his hourly rate if he earns $560? So there's a few different ways to go about this, but I'm just going to show you the simplest way. Okay, so when we're earning overtime, our time and a half rate is 1.5 times our hourly rate, but we can also think of it as being paid for 1.5 times the number of hours that we are actually working. Okay, double time, we're actually getting paid for twice as many hours than we're working. So if we think about it like that, we can add up our hours. So we've got, remember, show what you're finding. So total hours that Harry's getting paid for is 17 at normal rate plus 6 hours times 1.5. So 6 hours at time and a half plus 3 hours at double time. So 3 times 2. Okay, so then we calculate that. We know Harry is getting paid for 32 hours. Now that we have a set number of hours, we have our total earnings, and of course, that makes a really simple calculation. So Harry's hourly rate is going to be how much he earned, which is $560, divided by the hours he was paid for, which was 32, which gives us, I'm just going to write hours there because we know it's going to be a rate, is $17.50 per hour. Okay, so make sure that you write it as a rate, please. Okay, you've been asked in the question, what is his hourly rate? You need to give that solution as an hourly rate. So that's calculating earnings through wages and overtime. Hopefully that makes sense. Have a look at your examples from class as well, and make sure that you get plenty of practice in those calculations. Anything else you'd like me to cover, don't forget to comment below. And if you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to my channel to make sure that you don't miss any new videos.